our work that can support each other and share with each other, and not create extra work for ourselves. If it's something that can be shared with someone else in your region, or something that you can prepare, you know, now that we're virtual, you can be getting together with somebody in a WeGo if you want, and doing something with them. So please know that you don't have to do it all yourself. And there are ways to get help with that, but we do appreciate all that you're doing. We have a couple of announcements. I did let you know already that the newsletter is out. The next newsletter will focus around mothers and the celebration of mothers for Mother's Day. So if you have any great things about moms that you found, or you would like to share with us, please send it our way as we're working on that newsletter. This edition of the newsletter, if you haven't seen it, is focused on Mary, and May being the month of Mary. So you can supplement more information on Mary if you'd like to, but anything that you might have that can lead us toward celebrating the sacredness of parenthood, maybe looking at the fifth commandment, whatever we might do to kind of focus on parents for that issue would be great. So send it our way if you have anything. I want to bring to your attention that tomorrow, Bishop Matano, hi buddy, Bishop Matano will be joining the bishops of our country for the reconsecration to Mary of our country, and that will be on the Catholic Courier's YouTube channel at 3 o'clock. So please join us there for that special prayerful celebration. We're going to have our first meeting of those who would like to talk about a virtual VBS on next Wednesday afternoon. That will give us time to get the newsletter out and get that all ready for the next week. Mondays and Tuesdays are a little tough for us to add one other thing in, because we really need to get that published, and we need to get the tech newsletter published that goes out Wednesday afternoon. So if you can join us, we had a pretty significant list of people who are interested in brainstorming or working on a virtual VBS and or summer intensive program. We're gathering information. Vicki, thank you. Vicki sent me a great website that has a lot of information about virtual summer programming. So I've been making my way through that, but we want to get together and share ideas and maybe start getting something concretely put together. So next Wednesday, be looking for the link. It will be in the afternoon. The reason we're not having it in the morning is because hopefully you saw on our tech newsletter that comes out, the Ministering from Afar newsletter that came out yesterday, we are now able to participate in a new webinar series at 11 a.m. on Wednesdays that is being brought to you by the Office of Pastoral Services. And they have a variety of guest speakers and different topics that we'll be able to participate in on Wednesday mornings. So the information is there for you in the tech newsletter, and the registration link is there as well. You do need to register for that. So go ahead and register for that webinar if you want to participate in it, okay? So those are the only announcements that we have. You guys can turn microphones back on. You don't have to have them all on mute.
I do have an announcement.
Yeah.
Starting today after this meeting, I'll be staying on the Zoom call for anyone who has any questions about Zoom or any other technology. No guarantees on an answer or right away, but I will try my best to help with anything technology-wise or Zoom-wise.
Thanks, Katie. All right, so that's it announcement-wise. I did want to talk about that webinar that we referred to before I get into Father Abe's video that we sent out and asked you to watch in preparation for today's meeting. Did anybody get a chance to watch that webinar yesterday that focused on going back after the pandemic, that was from the Paulus?
Yes, I did.
I just watched it.
It was a really great webinar that gave us a lot to think about, and they actually sent me the slides this afternoon finally. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. I wanted to bring a couple of the slides to your attention because I think this will also help in your conversations that you have in our breakout rooms. So this was put on by the Paulist Evangelization Ministries, and they really talked about imagining what the welcome back is going to look like, when we are going to start getting back to gathering, what we might want to focus on when we get back to gathering, how we need to evangelize those who have not participated in our virtual offerings, and how we need to communicate and reconnect people to the parish, how we need to honor those who have immune system issues and probably won't be coming back for a while, how we need to honor the elderly who might not be coming back for a while, and really tying that all together. So I recommend that you watch the full webinar. If you haven't, they are replaying it tomorrow at 1. It's also on the Paulist Facebook page. So if you want to participate in questions and answers, then watch it tomorrow at 1. If you just want to see the content, you can view it on the Paulist Facebook page. But I want to share my screen again and just show you a couple of the slides that I thought were particularly important for us to focus on today. One of the things they talked about was having, once there is an ability to go back, a community-wide service of remembrance. And this is something that needs to be really well planned. So start planting the idea with your parish staff, your pastor now, and imagine what this might look like. One of the things that the speaker talked about, I'm sorry that I can't think of his name, but he was fantastic. He talked about having a service for the entire community, not just the parish. So connecting with other churches in the area, making it something where everybody is welcome to participating in it, emphasizing a Thanksgiving for life, taking special note of those who have survived, while also focusing on those we have lost and the grieving process over that. Bringing together a ritual where everybody can participate in and kind of renew that experience of worship together. Those were great ideas. It's probably far down the line because we don't know when we're going to be able to have a large gathering, but it's really something to consider, and I thought it was a great idea. These are some of the things that he talked about going forward. We really need to maintain our electronic initiatives. We've seen that they work. We've seen that we've gotten people to participate in Mass that maybe haven't been at our churches for a long time. We know there are people who are going to be hesitant to return because of health issues or just fear. So we know that it's a great way for us to connect, and we want to continue that connection. It's also a great way for us to reach the margins. So we need to think about those electronic initiatives that we want to continue. We need to think about fostering more peer and personal initiatives. So people are hungry for gathering. We know just from the amount of, Zoom happy hours that are happening that people are hungry to gather. We want to answer that hunger in a meaningful way. So we want to think about how we are going to be able to reconnect those peer gatherings and those personal prayer experiences, really focusing on deepening the discipleship of your parishioners. And he talked in depth about these processes of discipleship. So he talked about the Word of God and reconnecting people to the Scripture, reconnecting people to the experience of that encounter with God, talking about the Mass and renewing an appreciation for the Mass and helping people to understand the Mass if they have, grown apart from the church, especially. Really identifying the blessings of community that your parish brings, doing this by making sure there is a wide network of support within your community, and also doing this by connecting to the greater community through serving others. And then he talked about the big welcome. Focus on hospitality, not so much the food, because he said people are going to be hesitant about the food. They're not going to want to go up to a big tray of cookies and, worry about who's touched that food. So that's not the important hospitality, but the warmth, the greeters that are there, making sure that the liturgical ministers have taken this time away from the liturgy to be really well trained in liturgy, to really be ready to put all of their efforts into that weekend liturgy and establish and reconnect that sense of community. He talked about having a major parish event around the Eucharist, returning to worship and really having that celebration of we are reconnecting with the source and summit of our faith, and get as many people to as few celebrations, he said. So people can see each other again, people can feel the power of the gathering, people know that they are present with one another. And this will be down the line, but these are things that we can prepare for now and train people for now, and really focus on how this will be the center of what we do in the coming year. Maybe the whole year becomes a focus on the Mass and the beauty of the Mass and the return to the Eucharist and the deepening of prayer, and we can set our sights on that. He also talks about down the line having a parish retreat. That's really important. And then a social event. So these are things we can consider. After that, he talked about religious education. And I want to bring our, whoops, sorry, I went sideways. I want to bring our focus to that. He discussed an opportunity to retool religious education. Renew the emphasis on home-based, neighborhood-based, family-based activities. Renew the opportunity to involve parents in a new way. Renew the opportunity to form teachers, to train them well. Get away from the classroom and the sacramental prep temptations and into discipleship mode, and how we form entire families as disciples. And then continue that through parish live stream, Facebook, Instagram, social media, email blasts. Continue the process of supporting home life with prayer and discipleship experiences. So Family Zone, for example, is not going to be something that we only provide during this quarantine at home. We're going to continue to provide the family zone because we want parishes to be able to continue to coach parents in becoming the primary formators of their children. Those are things you want to consider. Those are slides that I thought were particularly important, and I want you to keep in mind that information when we get into our breakout groups in just a minute. So I sent you the video. Yeah, question? We have, couldn't tell if somebody talked. It's okay if you can, get my attention anytime. You can interject. I sent you the video of Father Abe. Did everybody get a chance to watch that video? I would like your opinions first. Let's just chat about what you heard in that video, what you saw in that video that made an impression on you.
Can I just share that the first part of it was very emotional because we just put my father-in-law in comfort care yesterday.
Oh.
We weren't able to go and say our goodbyes. So when he was talking about the funeral for his aunt, it was like, wow, this is going to be us in a couple of days. So once I got past that, it was good.
I'm so sorry, Maureen. Last time we gathered, you talked about him being in Kirkhaven. Did he get the
He did
coronavirus?
test.
Is he part of that?
He tested negative for COVID, but there's so many cases there. It's hard to say. They said he had a stroke the other day. With his advanced dementia, it's his time, they said. So it's
I'm so sorry.
It's very difficult for the family. So prayers are welcomed. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. I've talked to a significant number of families recently who are experiencing that separation at the time of loss, and it's not an easy thing. So my prayer to you.
Thank you.
I was thinking the same thing, Maureen. Sorry to hear about your father-in-law. Father Rob and I both watched the webinar yesterday, and afterwards we kept talking, and we also mentioned when they had talked about the community-wide prayer service for frontline people, those that died from COVID or that were sick and recovered. But I think we have an opportunity or will need to have an opportunity for people who have lost a loved one regardless and haven't had that time of closure. So I thought that was really important when he mentioned that's a whole separate outreach that we may not have thought of. So it was good to bring it to the forefront. But it is like I said the other day, I love my family. I love giving them hugs, but I miss being with more people. It's very hard for introvert or extroverts during this time. So I enjoyed what he had to say.
What else sparked a thought from Father Abe's video? I got a chance to talk to Father Abe this morning, by the way, so I told him that I would share any of your feedback with him because that's his first one and they're starting a whole series. So you can be honest and we will share with him so that he can, make it the best series he can.
I got an opportunity to watch that this morning, and then I was also looking at some of the, the church in Boston, St. Cecilia's that you sent out, and kind of started formulating some thoughts based on, both those resources when I was, some of those videos I was watching, and it struck me going, like, again, trying to look for silver linings in all of this, and we want to be together. We want to be, face to face, and not necessarily these kinds of meetings, but trying to find, okay, we're not quite there yet. We're trying to offer as many things as we can with these Zoom sessions, but what could the silver lining be of this, of these situations where we could be looking at what advantages, how can we take advantage of this time that we're kind of by ourselves, and catechesis being a big one, opening up the catechism, seeing, like, and using that as a vehicle to connect with, the universal church, to be able to say, maybe we're not together receiving Holy Communion together, but we can still connect ourselves with the things that we all believe to be true, and the code that we all strive to live by, and getting more of an opportunity to share and keep pushing with our communities. This is what the church teaches, and it's not just our diocese, it's the church universal, and it's a small way, and it's not necessarily the way we first think of how to connect with everybody else, but it's a way where we could say, diving into those catechisms again, and sharing little blips, either through our email blasts, or having Zoom discussions on, here's an excerpt from the catechism, and how can we live those in these new weird lives that we're living? How can we find teachable moments with our kids, to be able to teach that in our own homes, so we're not necessarily relying on those, Sunday school classes that we don't have available to us anymore. How can we find real life scenarios, teachable moments, to be able to to instruct that to our kids?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Andy, and taking it in small doses for parents. Here's one part of our doctrine, our catechism, and what does this mean? And just taking the time to actually have a conversation about it and how it applies to family life, not overwhelming anybody, but taking that in small bites. That's a really great way to bring those parents back to an understanding of what our Catholic faith is. So many of our parents didn't have a strong catechesis when they were young, right? So a lot of Catholics are Catholic, but don't really know what their Catholic faith is about. So that's a great suggestion. It's a great way to use this time and make it very valuable to parents, and having just a conversation around it. That's great.
Leslie, what it brought up for me, I'm not feeling as negative as this may sound, so let me preface that, but our parish is very compartmentalized. Our liturgy committee does what our liturgy committee does. Our pastor kind of oversees everything. Parish council does its thing. We've lost so many of our adult formation programs. We basically just have religious ed left through confirmation, and that's really all that we have left. And our pastor, for some it would be good, because his comment always is, I pay you the big bucks, and he's real hard, like he doesn't really dig in and oversee us. So for me, this time has been kind of, I don't know, just not sure where to go next, not sure what a priority is, because for me, the way I see things here where we are, that big party, that big welcome back seems so far down the road, because we're also warned that this may hit again in the fall. So I think what Father Abe's message did for me was just, I guess, let me know that I'm not alone in my little corner here floundering. Not that others are floundering, but that at least we're together, that it's our faith lived out, I think is his words, is what connects us all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, even if it's just connecting by saying a prayer together to begin the day, and, you know, going from there, taking it deeper when they're ready to go deeper, but say, I'm here with you.
Mhm.
I want to give you strength to get through this day. And I hope that you find blessings in it. You know, whatever small way you can help to inspire and let people know they are not alone. I think that's really important, because it's easy. It's really easy to feel alone right now. So yeah, that's great. All right, well, what we're gonna do, I don't wanna cut anybody off if they were waiting to make a comment, but I also wanna get into our small groups because it's 2:30. So we're going to get into our breakout rooms. And I felt that Father Abe's video helped us to consider that whole idea of evangelization. That is, we are part of that. It's evangelization and catechesis. And we sometimes think that all we have to do is catechize people, but it's so important for us to be the evangelists of the good news, right? We need to bring that to people. I've seen really good examples of it happening electronically on social media, you know, Instagram posts, things like that, being able to reach people and connect them, and maybe inspire them to get involved in a virtual mass, or, you know, whatever we are having success with right now. But we are going to experience that fatigue. People are starting to, you know, just like we have higher numbers in faith formation in the fall than we do in the winter, people get very enthusiastic, and then there's a fatigue. And I'm guessing, because I'm fatigued with what I've been doing for the last 6 weeks, I'm guessing that families and people, all parishioners, are fatigued by this, and they will start tuning out and kind of re-isolating again. So it's time to evangelize. It's time to reimagine and reinvigorate what we are providing, and make sure that it's meaningful support to the people that we are serving. So we've had some time to evaluate. We've been able to see how many views we have. We've been able to see who's participating in things frequently, and we've been able to see who isn't, in a lot of cases. And that the metrics are important there. It's important for us to pay attention to, because if we realize that we have a whole group of people that we're not reaching, a whole age level, or a whole ministry that, you know, was very vibrant in our parish at one time, we have to try to reimagine how we can do that. So we have small groups. I'm going to ask you to come up with a top 10 list, 10 ways that you can evangelize in the month ahead. 5 of those ways to be ways that you can evangelize to those on the margins, ways that you can evangelize to people that are not your regular parishioners. How can you draw them in with your actions and the words that you provide out there in the realm of the digital world? And how might you reinvigorate what you have been doing to make sure that those that are with you stay with you? So we're going to break out into groups. You're going to learn how to use the whiteboard. So we have, if you haven't used the whiteboard function, we're going to use the whiteboard in our breakout rooms and teach you how to do that. So we'll be coming back to show a list we devise in our breakouts. So enjoy. Katie, are you managing the breakouts, or is Mark? Katie is? Okay, Katie, give us 10 minutes. All right, thank you. It bounced me out and then was trying to type. So yeah, we're learning. But anyways, if you don't have a timed kind of zipping back out of Zoom thing, you can use the whiteboard really effectively, especially if you break out, if you're teaching a class or you're doing a youth group or you're doing adult faith sharing. It's a wonderful way for people to at least gather their ideas and have something concrete that then you can go back and share. There's a lot of ways, especially if you're working with teens, there are a lot of ways that you can use that for scavenger hunts and Bible hunts and things of that nature. So consider that. Also with younger kids. Who wants to share their list? Don just texted. Okay, so it just saved the random blank. Well, Don, you can share what your group talked about.
Oh, you're giving my memory way too much credit, Leslie.
Well, maybe your group will be able to share it.
One of the ones that we spent a good amount of time on was how social media is working well, but that it takes a lot of effort in consistently feeding the beast. And that one of the benefits that was added to that, because we made boxes and filled in our boxes as we went. One of the things that went in that box was that not only is it engaging the staff to create, but it's allowing the staff to engage the parish to create, such as the videos of sharing the light or sharing the messages that a lot of youth groups are doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's in turn engaging the parish because they'll respond and post comments, even if it's a simple amen.
Right.
And that is reaching a lot of the peripheries that we don't even recognize as peripheries necessarily.
Right.
One of the other ones that was mentioned that I think is worth remembering were the phone calls that are being placed to especially elderly that maybe don't have social media or can't stream the mass or things like that. So they're engaged as well. That when we're talking about peripheries and we're talking about outreach, there's more than just the select group that are on social media.
Right.
And then Andrew mentioned that his kids love getting mail. And Maureen and Sister Kathleen said, wouldn't it be neat for the letters from the bishop that just came in everybody's email to actually print them and mail them so that the kids get physical mail with this?
Yeah.
That's a great idea because my families have let me know they're sick of emails.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just sharing with our group that I wrote a letter to every single kid, grades 6 through 12. And I did make it very personal to each one. And I included scripture and encouraging quotes. And the response that I got from parents on that was really overwhelming of how much their kids appreciated getting something in the mail. And they all said they have them displayed on their mantles or hanging in their kitchen or so just a simple note or a card goes such a long way. Little things like that really made the kids feel special and knowing I was thinking of them personally.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to share this in the small group, but I did a virtual egg hunt for Easter because St. Catherine's usually has a huge egg hunt on Holy Saturday morning that we couldn't do this year. So sad. So I created a virtual one, and anyone who emailed me a response, regardless if it was right or wrong, I hand wrote them a letter and I packaged up some Tootsie Rolls and sent it to them. And sorry, there's chips flying all over.
Clean up in aisle 3.
Yeah, exactly. And so I heard from a bunch of people how nice it was, not only for the handwritten, but the little surprise. And so I did that actually yesterday too with the stories that I'm reading in the mornings. I did kind of like an interactive, like, how many sheep do you see in the pasture? And then first person to respond will get like a little prize for me. So trying to make the online presence a little more interacting rather than just them sitting there and listening.
One of the things I did for First Communion is I just mailed out, I hand wrote notes to each kid and I put a prayer card in there. But I also recorded a video, so they're getting a note from me, and then they're also getting an email with an actual video of Miss Vicki talking to them and praying with them a little bit, just to hit them so they're seeing me and they're also getting notes.
Yeah.
That's what I did too with our first Eucharist, and we're doing a Zoom with them tonight because it would have been their little rehearsal. So we're gonna sing songs. Yeah.
Aw. It's cute.
I think it's interesting because we keep talking about how we have to use this virtual thing. You know, we have to be more open to be more virtual, and we have to be connecting people virtually and you know, getting away from, you know, traditional stuff and away from sacramental prep and away from faith formation as we know it. And this is like my closet 10 years ago. So we went from the opening statement of Leslie to now I mail things. It's like, you know, 17 years ago when I started in ministry, we mailed things.
Yep.
I just think that we just need to be aware that, yeah, this virtual stuff is really great. The social media is really great, but you know, there's nothing better than gathering.
Right.
And I think just kind of careful. We talked about that at our Monroe East meeting today. You know, we just have to be really careful that we're not like saying, okay, well, that's a thing of the past. Because I don't know about any of you, but
Absolutely.
I'm so tired of looking at screens and reading my emails, and parents are saying the same thing. So that's all I would just say on that. So good to know bell bottoms are back, quote unquote, mailing things.
Thanks, Michelle.
I agree, Michelle, so much. And I think it'll be really hard to sustain anything virtual if you don't have that human to human contact, and we don't find ways to get back to that. I don't think it's going to last. I hate to be a naysayer, but I just think humans need human beings. We need to touch, and you know, I just.
One of the comments from the earlier meeting earlier today was that all of these virtual experiences are nice doorways into the church, but they're not the church. It's getting them in so that we can have that personal experience with them. And if we're treating it as the end all be all, we're not living up to the fullness that we have to offer.
Right.
Yeah.
It's important. It definitely is important. We're going to have to think, though, within the parameters of what the world and our, you know, the limitations that COVID-19 brings to us and how we can do that. So there will be, you know, there's definitely fatigue. Definitely. And that's why this mailing of stuff and reconnecting in different ways that are more human are a really great way to reestablish, but we still probably won't be in a situation where we can go back and have large group gatherings unless we're all behind masks. And what is that going to feel like? And how is that going to make people feel disconnected? So, you know, it's going to be really important for us to imagine all of this because our human experience might be changing as we know it. And how are we going to help people to mourn that, but also embrace that at the same time to make that transition? And that's why there needs to be a connection of the two. We are going to, now that we're in this virtual space, we know that part of life is going to have to stay there. What will we keep in the virtual space, and what will we move toward when we can regather in new ways? What are we going to have to let go of? in the process. That's really important. It's hard to wrap our heads around, but it's really important for us to consider. Some of the things that I think that we need to consider if we're really exhausted are the amount of gatherings that we have virtually. Were we teaching a class twice a day, every day? Nope, we weren't. I doubt that anybody was doing that. So is it hard to maintain doing that at home? Yes. Yes, it is. So if that's something that's exhausting for you, then it's probably exhausting for the people that you are ministering to as well. And that's why people start to trickle off. So what will the schedule look like in the future? And if it's hard for you to be the only person, Andy brought up, that he was looking at St. Cecilia's. They're empowering their entire parish. So they're getting different people to talk every day and be that inspiration. They're making sure that they video it ahead of time so that they can look for quality and issues. But they're empowering the parishioners. That's really important to do. Parishioners, living your discipleship is not just about being talked to. It's about embracing that kind of diving in. So if you're exhausted, how can you get a parishioner from their home to read the story that day or the prayer that day? And what might that look like to change things up a little bit, to get away from that fatigue by reimagining, reinvigorating, giving a different voice, a different view. Those are some good things to think about. When we were talking about mailing, I just have to share, Maureen from St. Charles was saying that they sent out a postcard that said, I'm sorry, Maureen, put your microphone on. What did your postcard say? Because I have it on the whiteboard, which is in my computer, and I don't want to pull it up.
I'm sorry.
It's your postcard. Did it say we miss you?
You matter.
You matter. The
Yeah.
postcard said you matter. And I loved that, because think about it, if you could do that, every once a month, the different message, and then they use that you matter postcard to share some things that people want to participate in, maybe virtually, but it was a way of just letting anybody know, whether or not they were on social media, that they were thought of and that you wanted to have that connection with them. I think that's great. So think about how those mailings, how those special cards, things like that might happen for everybody in the parish in different ways. But it can't be you writing all the letters to 800 parishioners. So how might you empower parishioners to do that and to be part of a network of pen pals or something like that? That might be a great opportunity. So our resistance level to having to be on Zoom all the time is getting up there, because at the end of the day, I've had friends who text me at night, and I don't even know that they've texted me until the next day, because I really want nothing to do with my screen. My poor mother was a nervous wreck the other day because I didn't answer her. I didn't know she texted me. And usually I'm really good about that, but I didn't want anything to do with it. And I was sharing that I got a card in the mail the other day from my best friend, just telling me she missed me. And that meant so much to me that I went out and bought cards and said, okay, I'm going to take her lead, and I'm just going to start sending people cards. That's a great thing. But even though things are going to be reopening gradually, slowly, a little bit at a time, we've got a new reality that we live in. I don't know what that reality is, because I don't think this is the final picture, but we've got it, and we've got to figure out how to be creative within it and still build disciples and still let people know that they're not alone in the world, still let them know that God loves them. So we have to be, willing to evangelize. I would love for our leaders to share your whiteboards that you can. We'll put those in the next tech newsletter. We're running out of time for today. So we'll make sure that we gather up all that information in that tech newsletter that goes out, so you have the notes from what we shared. But closing thoughts. What would you like to say before we close?
I just had a question. I don't know whether this is the right platform or not, but I'm the business manager at St. Charles, so this is kind of a new area for me, and I'm trying to help out because we don't have our faith formation director on staff right now. She's furloughed. So a lot of questions, and I'm sure we're all wearing a lot of different hats, but one of the questions that I was wondering, has anybody given any thought to, will parishioners come back and use your hymnals and your mass books or your prayer cards? And how are you thinking of addressing that situation? We don't have drop-down screens. We're looking into it, but that's another probably a very huge expense. So those are the kind of questions that we're faced with, and we really don't know how people are going to react. And I just wondered if anybody had any feedback with regard to that.
At St. Catherine's in Mendon, we have taken all of our hymnals, anything that was in the pew, pencils and all of that, and we've packed them up, and we're just, but we have a screen that comes down that we're going to be projecting our music and everything. But that was the first thing on our list, was to not have anything that people can, more than one person can touch. We did the very first Sunday before everything was shut down. We did have our hymnals out, but we had them on a separate table. So you pick one up and then you put it on a different table as you leave. And then all those were wiped down. So there's just another, what we've done. And my son is, being a shark, so.
Another thing that might be, we haven't talked about, but just as a thought, another option, depending on who your publisher is, you might have the ability to reproduce and just print out, like for that mass, and then that they would pick it up and it's theirs, and then they put it in their recycling, no one else touches it after they touch it. I know personally my husband won't be touching a book someone else touched for a really long time.
That's what we're thinking too.
Sorry, I'm typing back to you, Barb. I'm gonna, instead of typing back to Barb, who said, she thought the Diocese of Rochester would probably have recommendations on that. I'm guessing that there will be. I'm guessing that they'll be from the health department, and they'll let us know exactly when we go back what that's going to look like and what we're going to have to follow as the guidelines. But that brings up a really good point, Maureen. And I was saying in our group, my husband owns a small business. It's closed right now, but we went in his store and basically cleared out everything that we thought was clutter that people would be touching, that was not, so we had to empty it out of things. And then he's been looking into like the sanitation process and how things get sanitized, how quickly they do. And so all that is going to become a reality of what we are to open, what any business or organization is going to need to follow as far as guidelines are concerned. They'll come from DC, they'll come from the health department, but I don't think that right away we will be able to have things that multiple people will be touching.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's an important thing to consider, and I doubt that, at least in the short term, that's going to be accessible to people.
You know, I was thinking about that and about other things like that, and I've been reading every article that comes out online about, you know, 25 things that your church needs to think about before they reopen, and then all of a sudden I realized that no matter what I think, no matter what I plan, no matter what I envision, it's going to be something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that there will be guidelines that I have to follow. And
Right.
you know, so I don't need to worry about any of that now. There's a lot I need to worry about, and for me, I've stopped reading those things because they just get me going and they get me hyped. And I know, you know, Leslie, you got to worry about that. You got to figure that out. If you need help, you've got a great department, and if you need more help, you've got all of us to talk to.
Absolutely.
And that's down the line. So I've kind of let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Who is that? I can't.
This is Bethany.
Hi, Bethany. I just have to look on the screen, follow
yeah,
the
no,
voice.
you find me. Yeah. So I just had a curiosity question. Is there any, or have there been any discussions at the diocesan level about allowing, say, the outdoor masses or the car masses that we've seen from around the country? Curiosity from parishioners who are reaching out saying they really, really miss Jesus. And just wondering if that's anything that's been discussed.
At this point,
it has. Yeah. Go ahead, Don. You go.
At this point, I don't believe it has been, because we're still working under the regulations from Cuomo, which don't allow for that at this point. Will there be? Quite possibly. But as of right now, until he's opened up the groupings, you know, to be able to have groups again, I don't think that our bishop is looking at that at this time.
Okay, because I've seen certain, like, I'm trying to think of the name of it, Constitutional Freedom Group or something like that, that is working with churches in other counties, specifically on saying, yes, it is allowed to do the cars in the parking lot type situation. It's just a curiosity, because it seems like it's been a really long time since we've been able to go to Mass, and even if it's, you know, first 50 cars get in and everybody else waits. I mean, just that type of thing from my perspective as a parishioner, my perspective as a staff person in a parish, knowing it's been thought about and having some sort of idea that the diocese is working on it would be helpful.
We published a letter, part of a letter from the bishop last Friday. Father Paul published it in his weekly letter to our parishioners, and the letter from the bishop said that is not in keeping with stay home, stay safe. We are called to keep one another safe, and that outdoor processions and outdoor parade. He didn't say parades. I think he said processions, but masses were not allowed. Wasn't our words. It was Father Paul quoting the bishop.
Okay, thanks. I must have missed that one.
I think one of the things we have to remember too is, sadly for our church, we are in everybody's eyesight. So one little thing would be wrong, one little thing, you know, we're darned if we do and we're darned if we don't. We suffer, but at the same time, you know, sadly, I can't imagine being a bishop anywhere right now, because there's nothing they can do that's right, you know? So I keep reminding, as much as I want that parking lot, can't believe I'm saying I want to go to a parking lot for Mass, but I do. But, you know, we are right in the binoculars of every group everywhere. And I think we just have to remember that.
Yep.
So are we, maybe you said this at another meeting and I wasn't at, but should we be at this point, should our planning be for the fall that we're sending materials home and everybody is just, they're being catechized at home by the parents?
I think that what you should have on your thought process, having your thought process, is that you want to be able to support the families in becoming the primary catechist. So have that support ready to go and have that material ready to go. And then we'll see if it opens up so that you can have, you know, a combination of the gathering. But regardless of whether or not we can gather in full force or not, our goal is to re-empower parents to be the primary catechist. That is our goal. So start thinking in that direction anyways, because we need to give parents back that power to become the center, become the center of faith and the domestic church. And we want to build up that domestic church. So what a great opportunity for us to say, we are all on board. This is the domestic church and we are going to celebrate you and get those materials together for them. And then if you can have a combination of both, fantastic. But either way, let's focus on providing that, you know, home study kind of experience. And then gathering should happen, whether it's on a Zoom call or whether it's in person. But, you know, we have to wait to see what our guidelines for gathering are going to be. But there should always be an opportunity for parents and youth to come together as community and talk about things and, you know, kind of wrestle with their whole faith and discuss it and not be isolated in not experiencing that with one another. So we definitely want that. Margaret, I think, you know, as long as we're heading in that direction, we're still preparing. We're not kind of waiting on the precipice and saying, I don't know what to do about the fall. We'll have things available. And then if we can take it further, God willing, we can, we'll be able to gather with people. But if not, we'll be ready anyways.
Okay.
That's the stance I would take.
Okay, thanks.
Leslie, I have a question. I'm kind of struggling with, I want to move forward on planning for the fall, but I think people are in a variety of places where they may not be ready to hear that we can't act as normal in September. So can we say the diocese says to prepare to empower families as the domestic church and primary evangelists? Can we say you said that?
Well, we're trying to do that anyway. So I would not say the diocese is telling us all to do home study, because that's not what we're saying. We're saying we're wanting to empower the domestic church, and our focus is going to be on that, to work in partnership with parents in forming their child in faith and be in community with families. That's really our focus is family centered, and it has been for a couple of years.
It's also worth noting that the diocese has said and continues to say that we want the safest environment for our young people. And if the safest environment during any pandemic, this one or another one, is at home, we want them home.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may be talking about, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Who is that? Pam?
Maureen.
No, Maureen. Hi.
I just wanted to ask, I think you mentioned that next week you'll be talking more about the summer intensive program, and that's, as a business manager, I'm trying to help out with that area as well. But I'm just curious, the summer intensive program is a 2-week program that we offer. And to me, that seems like we were taking the, I don't know, fast forward approach for it and taking the empowerment away from the parents and say, you send your kids here for 2 weeks, then we can get you through everything. I mean, is it still recommended that, I don't, again, this is not my area, so I don't know exactly how the summer intensive program came about, but is it still something that, you know, we should entertain, you know, whether it's in person or whether it's in home study or a combination of Zoom? Because that's something that July will be here before we know it, and we're trying to figure out the planning process.
Yeah. I think one of the things we talk about, and some people on this call already do that, where we try to combine the summer intensive with a family-centered program.
Yep.
Rose, you do that. And,
Yes, I do.
Jeannie does it.
Yeah, so it's a great model to be able to have the pieces of that puzzle put together in that way. Summer intensive allows us to reach those families whose schedules really don't, you know, offer the opportunity for them to gather weekly with us, etc. So people took on the summer intensive because it made sure that we could, that catechetical content every year, have that opportunity to get together with those children and give them that experience of their faith. But it's best done when it is combined with a family component, whether that be, you know, during the summer intensive, or the family component is what keeps them gathered and connected all year long. So sometimes it's just kids who come during the summer, and then all year long, once a month or however often you do it, the families gather and then reinforce that family time. And it also gathers the families to worship and the you know, so we want to be able to do that to make sure that they're on the church property when we can get them there. That makes a world of difference. If we just, you know, say we're only going to see you for 2 weeks in the summer and then we'll see you next summer, that doesn't really do anything for building discipleship and connecting them, you know, all year long. So it should be a combination, Maureen.
Summer intensive is an education model, which is part of a full faith formation model.
Yeah.
So we want to do things with the families to encourage the child's full faith formation so that they're becoming disciples and being formed in the faith. Part of that is head knowledge, which can be accomplished in the summer under typical situations.
Thank you.
Jean Mooney,
and
I
also,
hope that you, I'm sorry, Mark, I'll give
no,
you
all I was going to say, Maureen, as you were listening, there was some communication in the chat. Jean Mooney, who is from St. Joe's in Penfield, she does a summer intensive model, as well as Rose Dunning, who is on here from the parish of the Holy Family. So they may be good resources to kind of wrap your head around all this terminology that we're talking about that might be completely new, which
exactly
we totally understand. So those two individuals might be great resources for you as you try to kind of wrap your head around how in heaven's name am I going to make this happen.
Right. And that's it. I did have a wonderful conversation with Rose today, so I appreciate that contact. And again, we're just trying to decide, like, you know, when to even bring back Mary to our faith formation director, or, you know, will it happen before summer and the camp? And if not, how do we handle it. And again, right now, I'm kind of the one, but I know I'm not going to be running summer camp no matter what. I doubt that I'll be the one, but just trying to figure out the pieces of like what's needed. Obviously Mary Chu was our information director. We've got her here. She would know all of this. So today it's like you just said, wrap my head around all this. It's quite an undertaking, but I'm trying to do the gathering. And so any help or support that anybody has regarding those programs, and whether it's possible that we can do it and what it looks like and who we get involved in it is where we're kind of trying to steer ourselves to. So I appreciate all your help.
Maureen,
yes.
When we meet up again, I would be willing to share with you how we do the family enrichment portion, like what Leslie was talking about. That, yeah, we do the 2 weeks summer in July, but then starting September, we meet once a month with the families, and I can share all that with you too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, we have kept you a whole half hour later than we expected, but there's been really good conversation and obviously things that people need to hash out and understand, wrap their heads around. So I'm glad you stayed with us. If you were able to stay with us, please look for the link to our virtual VBS and summer intensive conversation that will take place next Wednesday. Please distribute those Family Zone newsletters, send newsletter stuff our way if you have it. And this is our, I just saw in the chat box, this is our last call for a while with Mark and Robert. And we just want to let them know how very much they are going to be missed.
Absolutely.
Can't imagine our staff without you, and we can't wait till you're back. So be well, and please everyone offer a prayer of gratitude for Mark and Robert. Remember them in your prayers this evening, and let them know through your prayer how much they are cared for. We will see you all very soon. Be well, be safe, be healthy. And if you have any other prayer intentions, let us know, okay? And remember that Katie will be on here if you have any Zoom or other questions. All right, take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Leslie. Bye, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Really quick, how do you find the whiteboard?
Do share screen,
Mm-hmm.
and the second one should say whiteboard.
Yeah, but how do you get the?
Go to your files,